get the deal closed. Get the deal closed. We got the deal. Yeah.
Bensound.com.
All right, this is Kevin Flanagan with the Land to Sea commercial team, and this is Ace Myers, our multifamily specialist.
Hey guys, how was everyone's day today?
I just want to welcome you guys to the podcast. The topic of today's podcast is bridging the gap between residential and commercial. And to do that, we have our honored and esteemed guest, Rio Lloyd of the National Premier Residential Team with EXP Realty.
Hi everyone, this is Rio. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so excited to, what the conversation is going to be in this podcast, but I'm really excited. My name, I already introduced myself, but I'm originally from the Philippines, just to give you guys some idea. And I moved here to the US 6 years ago. I started my real estate journey way back in 2019, started with Grant Cardone's investment course. And yes, it was gifted to me by my husband for my birthday. It was the best birthday gift ever, and I get to jump in a Zoom call with Grant, and coach us through it. I think it has like 6 sessions that comes with it. So I was really, really lucky. And, that where it started my, my game plan to be in the real estate industry. So right now I am a residential local realtor here in Central Florida. I service mostly St. Pete, Tampa, Clearwater, Tampa Bay area and surrounding areas. But yeah, just a real quick information about me.
That's awesome. Well, welcome to the podcast. So, again, the topic of today is bridging the gap between residential and commercial, and something that I really want to get out in front of, because now that we've been at EXP for almost a year now, we are so happy with the platform, the technology, the ability to seamlessly connect, especially with the residential side, being 2 different brokerages. That platform kind of puts us in the same brokerage almost, because we see your guys' names all the time. And it's so easy to just pick up the phone and connect with you guys, or vice versa. Give you guys an extra stream of revenue when you hear about a commercial deal, or you hear about a business owner that you're helping to look for a house or sell a house. And he says, "Oh, I want to sell my business." Ordinarily, you wouldn't think or hear dollar signs when someone says, "I'm thinking about selling my business." But having that ability to just post on Workplace and say, "Hey, I've got a business owner looking to sell their business," and then 5 commercial agents call you to try to get that referral, stuff like that. That's how you grow a business. And it doesn't come without pitfalls. It's not as seamless as it sounds, because you have obviously residential people on this side and commercial people on this side, very different areas of expertise, very different processes. And that's what we're here today to talk about. Specifically, this podcast is mostly tailored for residential agents who would like to start co-brokering commercial deals and start dipping their toe in the commercial waters. As you know, if you want to switch to commercial, it's a big jump. You can't do residential deals anymore. But EXP, I think with that in mind, allows residential agents to broker as many commercial deals as they want, so long as they're co-brokering with a commercial agent. So we want to talk about why a lot of the commercial agents on Workplace immediately comment on your guys' posts and say, "Hey, refer it out to a trained, specialized, experienced commercial agent. Don't try to do it yourself." There's a lot of merit to that, and a lot of merit to why the commercial agents are apprehensive to work with residential agents. It's just a completely different process. When we do our discovery, typically, everything should be treated case by case, but typically on the commercial side, this is a savvy, experienced investor, a high net worth individual. Maybe they are a farmer, maybe they have a manufacturing company. These guys talk a little bit different. The conversations get very colorful.
Yeah.
As opposed to, a husband and wife looking for a home.
Exactly.
I doubt there's going to be many curse words flying around and negotiations of people slamming the phone. But on this side, we deal with that. And in a lot of ways, we have to match that energy. And when you bring in a residential agent that's maybe not as experienced or doesn't understand that Drywall has to be waterproof concrete the first 18 inches off the floor in a restaurant, or it's not compliant. Or if they don't understand grease traps, how many tonnage of AC that you need, what an absolute net is versus a triple net. Well, the moment that slips out of your mouth, these guys on the commercial side, they're so decisive, they're so quick. The moment they hear they're dealing with somebody that's not experienced, they're gone, and you don't get them back. So it does make us on the commercial side apprehensive to bring you guys in, but there's still an opportunity to address that and say, hey, well, how can we do it? How can we get you guys on these calls and expose you to a different type of business and a different type of process? So first, I would just want to start with your process on the residential side. When you get a residential client, what does that process look like? And then we'll talk about our process, and then we'll share some horror stories, some residential referrals, and maybe you could share your story of what your commercial referral that didn't work out.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we get approached by our, buyers or sellers, right, or sometimes investors who wanted to invest in residential properties, we usually do, an appointment to meet them in person or a Zoom call if they're out of state. Usually I handle a lot of out of state clients to help them move here in Florida. And, I get to know their reason why they're moving, right? Why they want to buy in this specific location, right? Where are they going to be working? Do they have kids, right? Because knowing what their goals are first is the most, I think, important part of the process, because now you get to know who you are talking to and how exactly you can help them, right? We as realtors, right, we have a lot of business partners, right? And they have their own strengths and weaknesses. And as I get to know more of the client, now I know who I can direct them, right? For example, part of our discovery call is asking, what is, do you have pre-approval? Right? Pre-approval comes from a lender. And sometimes most of the time, they don't have pre-approval. What is pre-approval? What is that? I'm just trying to buy a home. Well, that is one of the important pieces in this process as well, because that will determine your purchase price, right? And as we get to know them, are they trying to do a fix and flip, or are they trying to live there for 5 years and, get the equity, right? And those are different lenders that specialize in those products and services that they can offer. So I think knowing their why first is very important. And then, the rest follows with our step-by-step process, in terms of taking them up to educational tour. I call it educational tour, especially on the first showings, because I don't consider myself as a glorified door opener. I consider myself as a real estate advisor, where I, try to let my clients know also the area, what they can expect. Does this aligns with their values, right? Because it's not just being emotional to the property. You have to be smart about this, because a property is a property, but it could be a liability or an asset, right? And as an advisor, that is where I came from. That's where I come from, to tell them, like, hey guys, this is really good, but have you considered this, right? And after those educational tour, now they get to really, dive into what they really like and what they do not like. And then, just a regular process. Once they found the property that they love, fits their goals, their future goals as well, we make an offer, go under contract, then we go to close, hopefully. As long as there's no surprises, because there's always surprises sometimes. It's something you cannot avoid, and that's what keeps us young as agents, because every deal is always different scenarios, different challenges that you have to overcome.
How much would you say emotion plays a role in the residential transactions?
Oh, a lot.
Yeah,
for sure, because a lot of the times, especially if they are, husband and wife, right? And they have kids. There's so much things to consider. Sometimes they have the perfect location for their lifestyle, but doesn't, suits with their kids' needs, school-wise, right? Or sometimes the husband wants a single family home, that is no second floor, right? And then the wife wants an in-law suite because they want to bring in the mother, but the husband, you know what I mean? Or sometimes they're friends, trying to buy each other's houses, and there's so much emotions, just by not even just dealing with clients, even from agents sometimes when you're negotiating.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get head to head, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's interesting. And if I had to guess, I wouldn't say that I know for sure, but just kind of from what we've observed, I would say that if residential is maybe, let's say 60 emotional, 40 analytical, let's just say that.
Yeah.
Then I would say commercial, you flip that. Commercial would be 60 analytical, 40 emotional.
Wow.
And I would say emotions play a part in everything, but certainly a lot less on the commercial side. They're looking for a return on their investment. And it's funny that you brought that up. Bringing the analytical side to the residential is probably crucial, and it's probably difficult for you to sit down with a husband and wife and say, hey guys, I know you love this place, but is it the best investment?
Yeah, and I really, love that part, to be honest, because a lot of the times when people come to you, right, they want the perfect dream home, right? What the HGTV portrayed to that, to them, right? And that's not the real part of, the residential process. There's so much things that goes on. And to me, I take that responsibility to really, as an agent, hey, be honest with your clients, like, yeah, I know you might be making more money on this, but that's not the point, because we as realtors, we need to be ethical, and every deal, our clients need to be our first interest first, right? Their best interest is the best decision that we can do, right? Their best interest will make this deal, way more successful, right? So having those best interests, and also your being a realtor, an advisor, right, to help them make informed decision, is, to me, is the way to go. Not just emotional part, like, yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's in a good location, but it is your responsibility as an agent to give your clients the pros and cons, and then they can make, their decision from there, and you can guide them to the right direction after.
You want to go into our process on the commercial side? And tell them what happened the last time we had a residential agent refer us on the discovery call.
Yeah. Well, for the same idea, emotions play in every role. Everyone goes through emotions. But like Kevin said, we're working with numbers. So, when we talk to these investors, we're just, we're going straight to it. We're just we're gonna audit all the numbers. We're gonna work with the loans, the lenders, and we're gonna get like the specific amount of money they're gonna have on a month-to-month basis. So it's not that emotional. It is emotional in the end of the day when you're spending $1 million, $2 million, $3 million on an investment property. That's the emotional part. But you're in a safe environment because you're working with lawyers, you're working with brokers, you're working with all these lenders so a bank won't give an investor a loan on a property if the numbers don't work. So like, I can give my investor the wrong numbers, I audit the numbers wrong, but the bank won't give him that loan because they're going to run the numbers and they're like, dude, the numbers don't work.
Right. And it's harder on the commercial side. The down payment's more. I know the residential side, you can be between 3, 5, 10%. Commercial side is 20 to 30%. It's tough to qualify for.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Do you guys also use down payment assistance in commercial?
Not that we're aware of. No, I'm sure there's something out there, but bottom line is you better have a good chunk of liquidity to go into a commercial deal.
Absolutely, yeah. And going to a discovery call, just like how you said, like you guys would get a cup of coffee or a Zoom call. Same thing on the commercial side. We don't actually meet with all of our investors face to face. Most of the time it is a Zoom call, just because we just want to, it doesn't have to be this long, an hour-long coffee talk. It can be a 15, 30-minute conversation, just because we can introduce ourselves and what we have to offer to the investor. And we just want to know a little bit about the investor and what maybe, are they business people? Do they like buying businesses? Do they like buying real estate? And then if they do like real estate, what type of real estate? And we want to know like their budget, how much is liquid and how much is in assets, and that's what the discovery call on our side consists of. So when we get on a call, one question, and I want to tell you a funny story with one of our residential agents that we're co-brokering co-brokering with. But like a normal question with these investors would be, what's your budget? How much money do you have? To a normal person on the street that you met, that question would be completely rude. You don't go up to random people and start really asking them how much money they have and all that. But to an investor, especially if you're an agent like us, that's a typically normal question. That's a normal question. How much money do you have? Because we cannot take any other action on the process until we know how much money they have. But going back to one of our first co-brokering with a residential agent, we were talking about a discovery call and what the process is, and she was telling us actually what her process was. Well, we told her we'll be more than happy to co-broker a deal with you, and we actually want you to come join our discovery call with your investor, because it was her investor, and we're just going to co-broker with her. Mm-hmm. That being said, we get on a Zoom call, and kid you not, guys, I mean, she was amazing. I mean, the residential agent was amazing. The investor was amazing. But maybe it was on us, actually, because we didn't really explain to her the complete process of our discovery call, because it is almost completely different than on yours. Maybe not completely different. I would say the same idea, different vocabulary, different approaches, kind of straight to the point also for us commercial agents. We're straight to it, But we get in we start talking, me and Kevin introduce ourselves. We tell the investor who we are, what we do. And after the investor introduce themselves, Kevin looks at her and looks at them and say, "What's your budget?" Simple question. What's your budget? And immediately the residential agent interrupts Kevin, and he was actually going to continue the conversation, like, "What's your budget?" Because this and that, but he didn't have a chance, and she got kind of defensive to the investor. She just felt like it was an out of line question.
Yeah.
And that was just one part. And Kevin was like, okay, well, it's fine. You don't have to tell me your budget. Like, what do you want to buy?
Well, actually, funny enough, I said, no, we actually do need your budget because not only that, I need to know your exact liquidity and where your money is, which makes people uncomfortable. It really does. But at the end of the day, the transaction's not going to go smooth on the commercial side if I don't know exactly where the money is, and I'm not going to be able to give it the best advice if I don't know where the money is. And we get into the why too. What's your story? You're moving to Florida. Okay, well, what does this investment mean to you? Do you want this to be passive? Because I got to look at a totally different property if you don't want to put any work into it versus, hey, we're a family, we're passive, we don't want to do this at all, or we're a family, we want find a property that needs a value add and some elbow grease. Most investors want that. So now I got to look at a totally different property. Okay, well, how much cash do you really have? Do you have a hard money lender? Where are you getting all this stuff from? And if the residential agent who is involved ends up watching this, which probably will, we had a good laugh about it, and about how, wow, the process is so different on the other side. And that's kind of what motivated us to do this podcast in the first place. But yeah, no, it's just funny. And on the residential side, you guys might deal with a pivot where, hey, I want to live in Tampa and I want a pool. Come to find out, they don't really have as much cash as maybe they first thought. They're like, the interest rate is so high, we can't really afford a house with a pool. We can't even afford Tampa. So we got to live in, a suburb of Tampa. So that's a pivot. Well, here's a great suburb, up and coming, 9 out of 10 schools, whatever. But on the commercial side, we get a multifamily investor that ends up buying an ice cream shop.
Yeah.
So you never know where it's going to pivot on the commercial side because it's an investment, and the investment can come 10 ways to Sunday. They could end up in an index fund. They could end up in one of our DST products. Shout out to Tommy Thompson, who I'm sure you've seen on Workplace talk about DSTs. Phenomenal passive investment vehicle. People can fractionally invest in an Amazon warehouse together, whereas as an investor by yourself, you'd never be able to do that. So there's so many different products on the commercial side, and oftentimes the discovery takes longer because they don't really know what's out there. We have to be so well versed to be able to pivot them. We've got to be able to say, hey, and he's right. When they draw up these contracts, I can't give you legal advice. You got to talk to your attorney. There's going to be a different tax liability on the investment side. You got to talk to a good CPA. You've got to talk to maybe 4 or 5 qualified professionals to get these commercial deals done. And especially if it's a residential client referring to commercial, they obviously don't have a commercial broker already. So maybe this is their first time getting into commercial. Yeah. So they really need to work with a good team. But yeah, what else do you feel like is different on the?
Well, just going back on the pivoting, like you can pivot anywhere in commercial real estate, but even for me, I do multifamily. I have to pivot in multifamily. So like right now, and this is how crucial pivoting is. Like it's not like pivot from multifamily to hospitality, even though those are almost really similar. They're both renting out to tenants or guests. But I would have to sometimes pivot from like year-long leases to now I have to show my client an Airbnb property because I have to work with their budget. I got to work with what they want for a cash-on-cash return or like, their cash flow. And that, that being said, even like the terminology, like when we're co-broking with all these residential agents and these kind of fairly new investors, they're not even familiar with all, what a cash on cash return is or like an ROI is. And because when you're buying, a regular house, those numbers don't mean there's no ROI.
Yeah. I have the pre-approval. I can purchase it. I can afford a monthly mortgage payment. I'm good. Right?
Yeah. I don't think I've ever heard a commercial client drive up to an industrial property and say, look, honey, look, kids, look how great this place looks. They don't care what it looks like. In fact, we actually just had, here's another actually funny story I didn't even think of. A residential agent was telling her client had bought a medical office for the first commercial property. And she's telling her, and it's crazy, but this woman spent $30,000 remodeling this property to make it look real nice. And then she was out by herself, mulching and putting flowers outside. And I get involved and they're like, hey, we want to work on this property. And I'm like, oh my goodness, guys, none of this, stop what you're doing. This is not necessary at all. There's no curb appeal. That's not what these investors care about. It's either going to be an end user, a doctor that's going to buy this, or it's going to be an investor. And they do not care. Not only do they not care, but they got the budget. They're going to remodel it their own way. And that's exactly what's happening. Mm-hmm. And she kind of didn't believe me. She kind of was still like, right before the buyers were showing up, she was still like moving stuff around and cleaning. And the buyers get there and she's like, oh, I'm sorry for the way this place looks. She's like, we don't care. We're changing the way this looks anyway. We're putting a wall through here. We're doing, and she's like, oh my gosh. So it's just so different on the commercial side.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
Yeah. Well, because you guys are more focused on numbers, right? The return, because I think for most investors, that's what's most important for them, right? Or else why they're investing anyway.
Yeah,
exactly. So one more interesting story, and again, if the agents involved see this, they're fine. We've talked about it. It's all good. It's a learning experience. Like Ace said, part of the reason we're doing this, we want to step our game up and say, hey, these are the expectations when you work with us on a commercial deal, and for the residential people to know as well. But we had a referral from a residential agent, and we did a 3-way call with her buyer. She says, hey, this client wants to do a donut shop. Okay, cool. Let's do the donut shop. What's your concept? What's it called? How many locations do you have? These are all different type of questions, because when I go to present this tenant to a landlord, they're going to want to know, is this a successful donut chain? Is this his first restaurant? The landlord typically will say no to a first location because that's risky. They're spending a lot of money remodeling the space for his donut shop. If he doesn't work out, they've got to spend all kinds of money repurposing it for something else. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to explain that to the residential agent and to the client. And they're both new at this. And they say, well, I'm just starting out. What's the name of it? I'll figure that out later. Were you on there, Paul?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, he's like, we'll figure it out later. And I said, okay. He's like, I just want to find a space first. And the residential agent, and we signed the referral agreement. She's like, can't you just find him a space first? I'm like, oh God, now it's 2-on-1. What's going on here? The brokers are supposed to stick together. And so we're like, so I go, okay, I have the perfect space for you. It's $1,000 below market rent. It's on Main Street with a high amount of traffic. He's like, oh, cool, great. I said, all right, what company name do I put on the lease application? He's like, I'll have to figure that out. I was like, so yeah, when I get on the phone with the listing agent, he says, what's your client's concept? What am I telling him? What is your concept? Mm-hmm. So they're like, okay, we get it. I guess you kind of do need a concept before you get started. And this is on the commercial side. It's a seller's market. It's a landlord's market. There's no inventory. They call all the shots. We have no leverage these days. So we have to create entire pitch decks.
Yeah.
We create a slideshow. Here's the owner of the company. Here's the concept. Here's their financials. Here's their other locations that they have. Here's why they should go in your space. And it's tough, man. It's really tough.
Oh, I didn't even realize that, that it's almost like a business pitch to, your investors. Because in residentials, right, as long as they have the money, okay, we'll sell it to you, right?
Yeah.
But with commercial, it really needs to be a business that is going to make money.
Yeah,
Yes.
just because the landlord is going to have to put in money too, so they don't want to lose money either. So they're not going to just say, oh, let me check your funds. Oh, he can afford the storefront or the property or whatever it is. He can afford it. He has the funds. But if the numbers or the business itself isn't going to work the next 6 months, well, the landlord just lost a ton of money.
Yeah.
And that's why both sides really have to do their due diligence on each other. And they have to have, like Kevin said, you need to have all these things in place, your business name, your funds in place, everything to make this,
EIN
work.
EIN takes 2 to 3 weeks to get. You can't just find a space and then create your business. You need that tax ID number, the EIN. That takes time.
Yeah. And how do you guys like factors such as, locations, zoning, regulations, market demand? Like, how do you like factor those out?
Yeah, that's tough. We have to make calls to the city, the county. It's a lot of work. And that's also, guys, why, the commercial agents say, you're not getting 30% on this referral. It's 10 to 15% because we're putting in so much work. And the commission's typically a little higher too. So even though the percentage number looks lower, your dollars at the end of the day are still good. But, a lot of commercial, we've had residential agents say, I get 40% on my referrals. There's no way we're putting in this kind of work for you to get paid 40%. It's just not happening. So, and it's not anything towards you guys. It's just, there's so much work involved. We got to feed our families too. We're working really hard over here. So yeah, having to build the pitch deck, having to check the zoning. And it's funny you brought up zoning because so finally the client on the phone says, okay, well, can you guys do it for me? Can you guys set up the business, do the logo, the whole thing? We just so happen to have real estate attorneys, business attorneys, civil engineer, a graphic designer on our commercial team. And we have a consulting firm that we can refer you out to that will file the paperwork with the state, expedite the process. They might be able to get you an EIN in 10 to 15 days. So I said, yeah, absolutely. And I put together a proposal, sent it to him. It was like, I gave him a steep discount because we were going to be his broker at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And basically made it clear that he wanted us to do the work for free. He did not want to do that. And the residential agent, again, was on his side saying, well, why can't you just do it? Well, we just told you guys why we couldn't just do it. And you said you wanted this consulting proposal, so we made this consulting proposal for you. So it was the oddest thing that the residential agent wasn't on our side and wasn't understanding. Lo and behold, the next phone call we get on with the guy, well, how's it coming? Did you come up with a name for the donut shop? No, I want to do a tow truck company.
Oh, yeah, that came back to me, yeah.
And the residential agents on the call, and I'm like, do you see why it's so important, guys, that you have your business plan in place? Because I would have put in all this work, and you never cared about a donut shop.
Yeah.
So the residential agent's finally like, okay, I get it now for the second time.
Yeah, residential agents, listen up. Share this podcast to your friends.
So then the guy says, well, just send me a list of all the land available in the entire county. And I'm like, okay, I could do that, but what would be the point in that? And we were both talking about how there was only one tow truck company in town. And I said, there's probably a reason for that. The zoning is probably difficult. The county, the city, they probably don't want another tow truck company. And in the phone calls with the city and the county, come to find out that is the case. They really don't want the aesthetic of another fenced-in impound tow truck company. So finding this piece of land was extremely difficult. Multiple times we drove 3 to 4 hours. Crazy. Multiple guys on the team working on this. Our environmental specialists, Ace, myself. I mean, just so much work. Crazy. And they're like, well, how come you can't find any land? How come? And the residential agent, again, on his side, how come you can't find any land? Guys, the zoning has to be right. The client says, oh, yeah, I just bought a piece of land for $65,000, and come to find out right before the closing, the zoning was wrong. I can't do what I want to do. And I'm like, you mean you've already been through this and you're still asking me why I'm putting so much work to get you the right piece of, it's crazy. Absolutely crazy. So there's a lot of work that goes into this side, and that's why commercial agents are apprehensive about working with residential, because of that disconnect. So I want to bridge the gap. I want everybody to come together. I want us to respect your process, you guys to respect our process, and at the end of the day, we're on the same team.
Exactly.
And if there's something that you don't understand, talk about it on the side. If I have a problem with somebody, or I want to, it's always a conversation on the side. It's never in front of the client. Mm-hmm. It's always on the side. And it's, hey, this is how we do the process. And at the end of the day, if you don't want to do business with us, do business with somebody else. And we can, and we've had situations like that where we've signed to release the referral. Go ahead, do business. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. But at the end of the day, you're still my teammate. I'm still going to look out for you. I'm still going to watch your back. That's what bringing EXP Realty and EXP Commercial together is all about.
Absolutely. Bridging the gap, guys. It's a big part of it. Working together, co-brokering.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important to be in this call, like also getting to know your business partners, right? Adding people in your network, because the more people that you know, the more that people that can, help you or give you that information, and then bridge the gap to what you don't know and what you do want to know, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So, hey, to all those residential agents that want to dip their toes in the commercial water, our team is perfectly willing and will happily co-broker deals with you. And yeah, hopefully this gave some light as to what we go through on this side. It's funny to hear what you guys go through on your side. Can't imagine it.
For sure. Well, thank you for joining us this morning.
Of course. Well, no, I'm actually so happy that, I get to guest in your podcast and get to learn about the process and what goes through in a commercial, real estate transactions, because I even like some of the information that you guys shared today, I've never even heard of it. And it's like a nice perspective to know. And now that I'm dealing more of like, getting my, I guess, how do you say it in American, like getting your feet deep in the water or whatever that is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, right? And it's like such a helpful information for me. And yeah, let's just stay connected, send businesses, and help each other grow. I'm excited for that.
Awesome. And hey, guys, we have business owners moving from New York, Chicago, California. They come here. They say, hey, it's hard to find a business. I want to buy the business first. And then as soon as I do that, I want to buy a house within driving distance of the business. So we have referrals to the residential side as well.
Absolutely.
Well, awesome. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
So much, Ria. Take care.
Vincent.com. get the deal closed. We get the deal closed.